Hello, everyone. Hope you are doing well. I want to jump on here and do a live um, just because it's easier than recording, editing, and all those things. But I wanted to first off apologize for missing Magical Coffee Hour. I know I didn't post anything or say anything, I just was a no show. And I want to apologize for that because, to be quite frank, I was feeling bad. I really was. I was sore. I could not move. I got knocked around pretty good. Um, and yesterday I had to focus on the office and stuff like that. And I was still moving quite slow. In fact, I'm still pretty sore today. Not going to lie about that. But um, I did want to go ahead and get in here and let you all know that I am fine, and I do apologize about that. You know, things happen to all of us, no matter what we're doing, where we are. You know, things are going to happen. Life happens. I say that all the time on this channel. Life happens. You got to roll with the punches and adapt accordingly. Now, normally when I go down due to soreness or pain or doing something stupid, I'm usually pretty good at bouncing back and doing well and just carrying on as it were. Whew. I tell you, Sunday, I don't know. Maybe I'm getting older. I don't know. But that did not pop up and bounce and just grit my teeth through it the way I normally do. But there were many, many things in play. So I don't think it's necessarily the older because, well, heck, it wasn't a couple months ago that I did that. So that doesn't make much sense to me personally. But I do apologize for missing that. Now, another thing I'll say is, you know, it gave me time to also sit and think a little bit because um, anytime I've ever been bedridden, hospital or whatnot, I've always made my brain keeps going. And when I can, I do some trance work and meditation because, hey, if you can't get up and move around, do things, do your meditations, right? So I did do some of that, but also I was trying to catch up on some current events and everything. And some of you all know that I made a comment in locals, and um, I've had a lot of people emailing me because the world's getting a little cray cray. It is, and that's fine. I mean, it's going to get cray cray, people. We can't run through a utopia at all times. Um, Try to keep your sense. Try to think. Try to be mindful. Okay, as magicians, it is very important for us to be mindful, right? And one of the things that I was thinking while I was catching up on some current events and stuff, um, how much hearing, reading this would have worried me in my 20s, right? And I was like, why is it not really panicking me now? And I got to thinking about it. And we do the Mage Minded series, those kinds of things. And a lot of it, I truly, truly believe a lot of it comes down to what we talk about in the Mage Minded series, which I'm going to start doing a few more of those because I do think they're extremely valuable, even more so now. Um, because no matter what I read, no matter what I see, even if it's a commentator, a YouTuber, a news source, whatever that I like and trust, right? Even if I like and trust it, I always do my due diligence research and find out where it's coming from, find out how the original source is phrasing it. Are they phrasing it as fact? Are they phrasing it as probability? Are they phrasing it as at this time we're thinking? Or how are they phrasing it? Right? Those things matter to me. One of the things my mom used to listen to a lot, and she loves talk radio. And for the most part, I hate talk radio, personally speaking. Though I guess I'm kind of getting into it because podcasts, by and large, really they're kind of talk radio when we think about it. But that's not the point. The point is there used to be a individual, and if you look up any of his older stuff, I don't know if you can find it or not. I loved his stuff. Paul Harvey called, I think the show was The Rest of the Story. And I say that because he always used to end it with, now you know the rest of the story. And he would tell this story about this completely seemingly innocuous, just boring kind of day to day person, hard times, just this story where you're hearing these. It's a very truthful fact, but you're seeing it from, instead of the star studded glamour, you're seeing it from, and it wasn't until the end that you find out who this individual is and what they're most known for. And I remember one of them was on the inventor of ketchup, right? And I want to say it was used as a medicine and a tonic. At one point, some people called it poisonous. It was all these different things that it was throughout its history. It's kind of cool. Anyways, I've always loved little things like that. And I've talked before, my grandfather told me, always check for yourself. So as I got more and more into Stoicism and some of the more philosophical concepts, and learning to think for myself and learning to look at information and learning to question it. Okay, learning to question it. I was raised to question information and dive through and do my reading and my research and find out, where's the data coming from? Why are we saying this? What's the point behind it? Could there be an ulterior motive? And that really did help me as a magician too. It really has. And being a magician has actually just kind of reinforced those thoughts, right? And I got a lot of people, there's a lot of people who they're surprised when they find out, even if I see something from a commentator I like, right? Instead of just trusting it whole hog, then I'm going to go, that's interesting. And I'm going to go doing my digging, right? And to be truthful, most of my commentators that I enjoy tell me where they're getting their information in their piece, so I can go check that original piece out. And so they easily trigger the research, if you would. I'm always skeptical when there's no starting point to research. You know what I mean? Also, a lot of the ones I like will state, this is my opinion, right? And an opinion is not a fact. And I do appreciate when people do that, of course. But watching the news cycle as a magician, as someone who's focused on self-mastery and self-empowerment, and I became extremely annoyed very quickly because I couldn't get up and move around easily. And I did not have my cell phone or my laptop in reach. I was watching the stuff on the TV. I finally figured out how to use YouTube on my TV, so there you go. But I couldn't look it up. I could not. And I had a pen and paper, so I started making notes about, oh crap. So I was trying to jot down things I was wanting to research. And I realized how annoying it was to not be able to check my own work, check, the stuff that's going on through there. And then I got to thinking about all the people I know who they don't check anything. They just take it at face value and run with it. I got a lot of great friends, very intelligent people, very intelligent. And they'll be like, hey, Drake, did you hear this? I was like, no, I didn't hear that. Where'd you hear that? Oh, where did they get their info? Well, I don't know. They just said this. I was like, okay, have you looked into it further? No, I haven't. Okay, well, I was like, well, that's a very interesting concept. Sometimes I hope it's true. Sometimes I hope it's not true, right? And inevitably, I come home and I'd say for 95% of the big topic issues are the ones that I think are fun, right? There's two areas in my brain. There's important stuff that has to get done, and then there's the stuff Drake enjoys, right? And 90% of those two categories, I'm going to come home and I'm going to look them up. If it's a category I don't really care about, I'm probably going to forget about it, right? There could be a worldwide conspiracy of dog shows, and it could be a horrible thing. It could be an absolutely horrible thing. Truth being, I'm not interested in dog shows. I love dogs to death. I absolutely love dogs, but I'm not into dog shows, so I probably won't do any research on that. Just as an example. Anyhow, and I would do my research, and I'd confirm what they're saying, or I'd actually end up debunking it. And I usually call my friends up, depending on who they are. I wait till morning. Sometimes I'm planning to talk to them. And then you got my buddy like Nitro, who he loves to wake me up at all god hours. So if I'm researching, I usually wait till 3 a.m. to call his ass. Um, you know, that's what friends do, right? You're gonna wake me up, I'm gonna wake you up. Um, but I confirm it. And a couple of my friends, I've got them doing that too. But as magicians, we need to do this. We really do. And I'm sorry if I'm not as animated as usual. Like I said, my back is still killing me. But I'm doing a lot better. As you can see, I'm moving around a little bit here. Um, but we do need to do our research, not just in magic, though. Yes, we do need to do our research in magic. And though, yes, we can't follow facts and things like that in magic because we have no way to scientifically verify a good chunk of the occult. Now, we can't say anything because certain aspects of the occult gave rise to modern medicine. They were able to prove certain things. And there's many magicians that believe that science and magic are largely one and the same, or two sides of the same coin. And it's just a matter of figuring out how to prove it. And there's a probability that I have to agree. But we do need to make sure that it's working for our path. Does that mean I have to agree with your path? No. Does that mean you have to agree with my path? No. There's a lot of people who have a lot of varying opinions. There was a comment on this channel, how do we know the dragons are real? And I led them to my entities being real or subconscious video. And, I told them when I answered it, I was like, I actually think about this question quite a bit. So much so I did a video on it. And they responded with like a series of, I think they responded while they were watching the message, the way it was going. And that's fine. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. I don't mind it. And they're like, well, I think they're absolutely real. I think entities are real. I think the gods are real. That's groovy. I never said they weren't real. That's absolutely groovy. So, I mean, it's okay to have our own different opinions on those things. Amar, hey, welcome. I am doing good. I'm doing better. Don't know how long you've been here, but I was hurting this weekend, hurting down in the back. Down in the back's the best way to put it. I've had some very, very rough jobs in my time, and I did not take care of my body. So occasionally, the mileage catches up with me occasionally. And Sunday, it caught up with me something awful. Luckily, my wife was very understanding. She was willing to help out and do some of the stuff that I was planning to do, but she can't do the live stream. She just cannot do those. So, that's how that is. Hey, Gabriel. So, is it working for you? That's fine. And if someone agrees with you, great. If they disagree with you, then this is something I see way too much in the occult communities. Don't attack them. Seriously, don't attack them. Because in all honesty, if your path and your opinion and your process is working for you and it's not hurting anyone, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Now, if you're one of these ideologies who your way is the only way and all other ways must be exterminated, well, screw you. Because if you're that narrow-minded and you are, that's a different opinion because now you are hurting people. That's not good. And that's about the only place where I draw a line, right? A lot of you all know me. You've heard me. I study, I research, I can talk to just about anyone. But when you start dehumanizing and hurting people to lift yourself up into some kind of false superiority, done with you. Magicians forget the kings are dragons, Goetia kings, and other spirits of kings. That's an opinion too, Amara. It really is. Like it's one of those things. There's no proof that they're dragons. There's different traditions, different backgrounds, and different source information. And ironically, I mean, I work with dragons, but when I've worked through the Goetia with the kings, the dragons don't claim the kings, and the kings don't claim the dragons. So there is definitely a separating point there. And that again, that's why I said it's a matter of opinion. Like, are the Goetic kings dragons? Yes or no? Well, in my personal opinion, it doesn't really flip and matter. Because in my path working with them, they claim to not be. And the dragons don't claim them. And everything works just fine in my path. However, at the same time, if another person's working with both groups and both groups are like, yeah, you know what? If it's working for them, I'm not going to argue it. But it is one of those things we need to stop stating absolute fact, and understand that these, unless you can prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt, scientifically, not in literature, because if we're talking literature, um, I got a book that states that seven dwarves raised a individual in the woods who was poisoned by an apple, by an evil queen. Did that happen? Don't know. To my knowledge, it's a fairy tale, but it's literary. And then we got, there's a lot of great literary things. But just because it's literary, don't make it true. We got to be careful with those. Um, I mean, when we talk about draconic species, that gets into a whole new pool of worms there, because when the dragons talk about dragons, they are speaking about what they refer to as true dragons, or I don't, however you want to state that. Like they don't consider wyverns dragons, for example. And a lot of people view wyverns as dragons. So that gets into a whole muddier swamp that, again, we could discuss and philosophically debate these, but we can't prove it. We cannot prove it, right? And like I said, there's nothing wrong with your point of view there. If your point of view is working for you, keep on doing what you're doing. Um, do I know any dragons that have met Merlin? Personally, I've never asked the question. And this may sound weird. Like, I am an absolute lover of Arthurian lore. Like, it got lost, it got stolen actually, but I had a wonderful collection of some really great journals and notes and stories, and of different Arthurian lore. I even had an encyclopedia collection based on Arthuric lore. And of course, Merlin's, great figure there for sure. And I've never asked about Merlin because, in truth, Merlin's one of these characters where, though I love Arthuric lore, when it comes to occult, I despise talking about Merlin, because I have yet to go to any event where there's occult people and there's not at least 8 dum-dums claiming to be the next reincarnation of Merlin. We don't even know that Merlin was real, right? We have reason to speculate it's based on a real individual, but we can't track it down very well. We're still trying to track it down better. We are Last time I checked, I'd have to go check and update it, but the last time I looked into it, we actually had more archaeological evidence for Jesus than Merlin. And there's take that for what that's worth. That and $5 won't get you a cup of coffee. But because of that personally skilled, I've never actually asked that question. So I don't know if he did exist. I'm willing to bet there's a dragon that's met him. Um, well, actually, it depends on how we use those terms, because unfortunately, those terms aren't used the same across the board. Um, so drakes and worms are not, depending on how that term is used, are not technically considered true dragons. Um, Technically. However, those terms have been used as age categories for true dragons in different literary sources. And as far as an age category point of reference, I've heard the real dragons use those. What is this? Mackenzie from Utah. Hey, welcome. Utah is a beautiful. I got to drive through there last winter, and actually, the last 4 times I've been through Utah, it's been winter. I really need to get there in the spring or summer. But oh my God, the mountain ranges, they're beautiful. They're beautiful. Like we actually came through like Las Vegas, that nice little mountain canyon pass into Utah from Vegas into to southern Utah. We came right through there. Mm, beautiful. Um, I was looking at the tarot info in the ideal that aces are the dragons. What are your thoughts? Funny, when I heard it, I thought of this channel. Hey, always nice to be thought of. Um, aces and tarot, aces and tarot. That could be. I mean, I don't think there's traditionally an ace in tarot, unless it's maybe the king. Although you could also go down to um, the lowest denominator, but that's usually the earliest of the path. So in tarot, and I've actually seen a few dragon tarot decks, and between that and the tarot decks that I do use that are non-dragon, ironically, the tarot decks I prefer have nothing to do with dragons. Um, whether we look at the archetype or we look at dragons themselves specifically, each of the tarot suits is a development process. You see a kind of a growth and a perfection of the ideal of that suit, if that makes sense. So the end result would be one that would represent the dragon more than anything in my mind. Um, and you could even say the same thing of the major arcana, where you start with the Fool and you got that progression of life. In a lot of ways, the dragons actually consider the path of the major arcana to be the life of the dragon. So just as it should be the life of us, because you got the Fool, no experience, no nothing. He's a bleeding idiot, new in life. Woohoo! And then he goes through all the lessons and the experiences and grows. So it wouldn't be a singular card in the major arcana, it would be the entirety of that line. Um, so it's an interesting concept. Now, if I had to pick one card, I would say it would be the cards. I can't choose the major arcana, I'll be honest with you, just because the way the dragons are very specific with that life and wisdom. But of the other suits, I would say it would be the pinnacle progression card. Um, if that makes sense. Amar asked, do you do astral projection? Yes, I do. I love astral projection, and though these days I use more soul travel than astral projection, they're not the same, but soul travel's a little harder. But before I was able to get into soul travel, I definitely was using astral projection. I love it personally. I use it for a lot of things. For those of you who are members of our locals community, astral projection and journey work are going to be a key part within the Norse Magic course. And I'm hoping to start to the local paid supporters. Actually, we're going to start rolling out sneak peeks of the Norse Magic course to make available there. So some of those lessons will be taught before it's prettied up and fancied into a course over at the online school. So but yeah, I do. I actually love it. And well, in Dragon Magic, you got the foundation is meditation and trance, right? And then they talk about the 3 arcane pillars. Any dragon magician should work on all 3 arcane pillars, period, bar none, end of story. And those would be evocation, invocation, divinations, and journey work and soul travel. So yeah, astral travel and soul travel count into that last pillar there. So yeah, I make use of all three pillars weekly, actually, as well as the foundation. I make use of the foundation daily. So um Way of the Dragon. I have seen Moab, Utah. I actually do like it. I don't get to travel as much as I used to, but I've been to all continental 48 for sure. I have not been to Alaska, though I really want to be, or Hawaii. Um, let's see. Good afternoon, Drake. Hi, I changed the name. Just Jim. Welcome. It depends on the scenario. The look in so some dragons they do shrink down to some extent, but there's also in their true form there is a limit to how far they can shrink. Okay, so for a dragon, let's say the size of a house, they could theoretically shrink themselves down to about a Chevy Tahoe size, right? That's still not very compact at all. It might be able to fit in a large room. It wouldn't be able to fit in my office here. I can tell you that much. But it could fit in a large room. So they are limited in what they can shrink down to, and part of that's because a good chunk of their age is so greatly intertwined with their wisdom and their power, and their size is so intertwined with their age that there does seem to be a limitation on them if they are going to be there present. Now, that being said, if they go further, they have to create essentially what would be an astral projection of themselves, which is a much, much smaller, um, would not have the same impact. And unless they make that clear, it's considered disrespectful to not be present. And some of them, well, they're not allowed to in many cases, some of them. So that's why, because it's one thing to shrink yourself down, but if they shapeshift to take on a humanoid form, the humanoid form still limits their power, but they're not as restricted by the size. Well, they're not restricted by the size because they're taking the form of something else, if that makes sense. I don't know the details of how it works because newsflash, I'm not a dragon. But that's how they've explained it to me. And I'm doing my best to explain that. And yes, I still have some painkillers in me, so I'm doing the best I can. Beautiful thoughts. No hat. Shocked. Yeah, I technically. Hold on. I can get it. Almost got it. Got it. There we go. Is that better, Red? I changed it back from Witchy Jim. Hey, Jim works great. My dad just went back to Alaska for a few weeks. Oh, that's nice, nice. I got a buddy, he wants me to go hunting with him in Alaska, and I'm highly, highly considering it. Yeah, I mean, dragons are absolutely cool. And like there's a few times like I've encountered magicians where the dragons have told them one thing and it works. It's fully functional, right? And another magician the dragon encountered, they tell them something that actually runs slightly contradictory to what they told the other person. And both are working. And both statements don't necessarily line up with what the dragons have told me. Ow. So I would contact the dragons, specifically the rulers, and I would ask them, hey, I was told this. Yes, you were. Okay. And I've just been talking to these two people, and they've stated that they received this information from you all. Are they full of shit, or did they receive this information? No, they received that information. Okay, that feels contradictory. And their exact response was, our job is to maintain the balance, and our job is to teach and empower those who are learning with us. And I was like, yes. And they're like, knowing what you know about reality and the ever changing multiverse outside the physical realm, would it not make sense that at times the truth and the correct lesson to empower, aid, and help a magician will sound contradictory to that which is there to aid, help, and empower another? And when you think about the ever changing, shifting, flexing multiverse, not just our little less than a pinprick existence, that makes sense. Just hey, there's some beautiful country up there. There's no doubt about that. I got a lot of military friends who go in and out of Alaska, and of course, I got friends who are big game hunters, and the pictures they bring back are absolutely breathtaking. They absolutely are. I wouldn't mind to go up there camping and hunting. I'd adore it. The guy who wants me to go with him, he has a hunting cabin up there somewhere. What I do know is we have to fly into, I want to say it's Anchorage, and then we got to take another plane somewhere to get onto a bush plane to take us toward the cabin. And the only place for the to land is on the lake. So we're taking a little tiny water bush plane. And I don't like flying particularly, much less in a airborne coffin, but um I gotta admit though, I'm really, really, really tempted to go because it's a state I've not been to, right? I like adventure. Um, I do love getting out in the woods, and I wouldn't mind an opportunity to go hunting up there. I don't, um, and just yeah, I'm thinking about taking up on it. I don't think I can do it this year, but I'm considering trying next year or the following. Let's see, Gabriel. What? Honestly, at this, I can't list personalities personally because, like, I've encountered so many dragons. I've encountered just as many personalities as I've encountered personalities of people. In all truth, they run the full gamut. Now, if you're looking for a generic stamp, like they do seem to take accountability very strict. They do seem to like not really like they're playful, they can joke, but when it's time to be serious, it's time to be serious. That's it. That would be the generic one. They put wisdom and knowledge and like discipline and accountability first, if that makes some sense. But outside that generic stamp, which I would say pretty much runs true for all dragons, their personalities run the complete gamut. Absolutely. And don't get me wrong, people think just because a person's wise and disciplined and believes in 100% accountability, they also seem to think that this person's just some old fuddy duddy who sits there like, no. Some of the funniest, goofiest people I know who get up to the most shenanigans fit that category. You're happy in Phoenix. Yep. Oh, yeah. See, I got past my fear of flying in general, but the small planes still give me the heebie-jeebies. They really do. Let's see. Flying is the best way to the land. Always carry your gun. Oh, don't worry. If I go to Alaska, you can guarantee I'll be armed. That's not a question. I'm pro Second Amendment all the way. There's a little tidbit of fact if you didn't know it about me. I'm pro Second Amendment all the way. Um, so yeah, yeah. And I know, like, I grew up in the Appalachia, so when it comes to bears, wild animals, I know the importance of being able to defend yourself. And I know that, the stuff up there is freaking big. Grizzlies, moose. So yeah, absolutely. That goes without saying, I would think, but actually now I think about it this day and age, there's a lot of people who probably that wouldn't go without saying, unfortunately. So yeah. Yeah, I mean they could. They absolutely could. That's yeah, I could see that. They are pretty chill. It actually amazes me that how still and silent they can be, and then how hyperactive they can be the next moment. That's one of the things that amazes me. Like I like to stay busy. I like to I get up and do things when I think about doing them, right? At the same time, I'm that person like I can sit so still. People think that the video call froze because I'm listening, I'm not moving, I'm not blinking. They think the camera's froze, right? And I can do that for hours. It's something I got from my dad. I don't know why we can do it, but I can't. I either I have to be listening to something, paying attention to something, or there has to be nothing to do. Because if there's something to do, I got to get up and do it. But at the same time, I don't really have that uber hyper energetic personality where I'm just bouncing around for no reason. Yes, I'm doing things, but all my movement has a reason. I'm very efficient with what I try to do and the way I move, my footing, everything. So I don't view myself as that kind of just ball of energy bouncing off the walls. And the fact that the dragons can seem to go from that just dead, motionless, not moving to that baffles me. I'm sure there's somebody out there in this world that can do that. Um, I've not met them. They're usually balls of energy, or they can sit really still. But one of these days, I hope to meet one. Um, let's see. Same. I'm used to going camping, hiking, fishing, hunting in Colorado. I've seen plenty of bears, mountain lions. Oh yeah, yeah. Colorado. I have been camping. I did a survival course up in the Colorado mountains in winter. Oh, that was cold. But Colorado's pretty too. Nice place you got out there. You're like Doctor Strange. His cape is connected to him, and you are your hat. Oh Lord, that's pretty cool. Oh, I wish I had as much control of this hat as he had that cape. That would come in real handy personally. S&T, what was the crazy coincidence or signs that let you start Magic? Start Magic in general, I'd say there was nothing. My starting Magic was kind of boring. I've you know, I've loved science my whole life. I wasn't overly a religious person, though I did get dragged to church like every good Southern boy um, by my granddad. And it wasn't until, I guess I was 16 or 17 when I actually made the choice to start church for myself. And, I got plugged in pretty good and I was doing well. My pastor loved me because I was the guy who I'd listen, I'd take notes, and then I'd go home and read, and I'd come back and ask questions, right? I've always been that question asker. That's just me, right? And that's why you won't hear me badmouth religion or an individual who's religious, because an individual who has a religion for themselves, that doesn't bother me. And it is our job to do our own reading and research, which is what we was talking about earlier in the video too. Um, so that was just pretty natural to me. There were some events that came up. not with my church directly. My church itself had some financial problems, unfortunately, due to the economy. Um, and when we moved and everything, we were having trouble getting plugged into a new church. And I just kind of got disenfranchised with some of the disingenuous people I was meeting. So I just, left, started doing my own thing, started asking questions, started having crisis of faith, if you will. But I started studying other religions and theology because, big picture out there. And I was studying multiple religions, whether it be Norse, whether it be Hindu, Buddhism, Taoism, um, Wicca. And actually, at one point, I did settle on Wicca for a while because, I thought I needed something to fit in this little faith box, right? It's like this box has never just been empty. Even when I didn't go to church, it's like I had something to put there, right? Even, it's kind of like you put a block under the couch to prop that corner up. Um, and when I got into Wicca and the pagan community, and I met some of the worst people I've ever met in my life. Now, point before we go on, I'm not saying Wicca is full of shitty people. I'm not saying that. I am not saying that at all. I'm not saying pagans are shitty people. Okay. I think people come in all flavors and varieties, and I think we're going to find dumbasses and shitty people everywhere we go. That's why I don't blame the person. I don't, say all Christians are bad, all Wiccans are bad. I don't say that. I wait for the individual to determine who they are. Your religion doesn't matter to me. Who are you as a person? What do you do as a person? What do you believe as a person? Do you think it's okay to harm someone because of your religion? That I'd have a problem with. But, those kinds of concepts, I put it on the individual. And I say that because at that point, I was pissed. I was pretty pissed off. That's just it. Straight up, I was pissed off. And I actually set out because I got into magic originally through Wicca. And I was playing around with it. And since I left the religion, and of course, Wicca, the magic, and the religion can be completely separated. And I was like, well, this is full of bullshit. So this is probably bullshit too. And I'm going to prove it. And I actually set out to do a focused data collection for 1 year, practicing candle magic and the magics that I had been practicing for the years I was in Wicca, and show that they manifested nothing, not a zip, zero, zilch. Ain't happening, right? And that's pretty much how I got there. And at the end of that year, my data didn't show nothing. It showed an actual manifestation result. Like there was data, there was something that was manifested there. There was change, there was actual change. And it was change that I couldn't account for in any other place. And that just grabbed a hold of my scientific brain and my curiosity, which has always been a part of me. Because if you notice, through all the ups and downs I just explained, I was always asking questions. I was always curious. And that curiosity just fueled my research. That's it. There's no traumatic coincidence. There's this weird thing in that's being taught that you have to have some traumatic event, some weird coincidence. Something has to happen for you to be called to magic. No, in truth, most of the magicians I know, they just got curious and looked into it and gave it a try. There was no weirdness. There's no special moon, special astrological sign. None of that has to happen to practice magic. None of that has to draw you to it. You can just decide, I'm going to go study magic. You can. It's just like being a plumber. You can decide to be a plumber. You can decide not to be a plumber. And I just happen to be that one. It's like, until it wandered around, and it was always a background thing. I didn't give two shits about it. But I put it to the test because I was pissed off at something else. And it just, is what it is. And in truth, if it didn't give results, I honestly wouldn't waste my time with it. Sorry if it's not a cool story. Bernardo, it's good to see you. Also true is one of the categories of Norse religion. Yes, yes, it is. Uh, yeah, I mean, I have friends and colleagues, but I'm largely solitary. Um, and a lot of us don't even have the same practices. We have practice very differently. And I always like when I meet someone, you come to me and say, "Hey, I'm Norse," or "Hey, I'm Wiccan," or "I'm Christian," or "I'm a Buddhist." I don't give a shit. That means nothing to me. It really does. It means nothing. So when you meet me, yes, you can tell me what you are. You can tell me, but the labels, they hold no value, right? They hold no value to me. A label holds no value. Instead, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to watch you. I'm going to listen to you, and I'm going to observe what you do. Not what you say, what you do. Because a person can say a lot of pretty things. What I've learned over the years is you can only keep up a facade so long. If I actually watch how the person acts, how they treat people, how they carry themselves, what their day-to-day action is, that's going to tell me more about you and the actual heart of who you are than anything else. And that's what I care about. Who are you genuinely as an individual? That's where I pay attention. Yeah, see, I like your name there, Just Jim. I really do because I get it. It's just Jim. It's me. And I mean, I've said something similar on this channel before. Like, I don't care about titles. Everybody, it's like I practice dragon magic, and people's like, "Have you initiated this?" It's like I don't. The reason I don't talk about titles and stuff on here is at the end of the day, I'm Drake. All right, I'm some redneck wizard who wears a hat that people seem to like or not like, but either way, they identify this hat in me, and I found a group of people who are happy to listen to someone talk honestly about their experiences and share it in hopes that maybe it helps them. That's just who I am. And, I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I'm not perfect. If I was perfect, my back wouldn't have been out this week. Just as a point of fact. I just popped in here since I missed coffee hour, Karma. Wanted to apologize to everybody, and some people dropped in, and we started having a chit chat. I may actually start doing more lives during the week to chat with you all and talk about things if I can. Um, but I'll keep coffee hour as the regularly scheduled program. Of course, if I do them and you can't make it, I'll say what I got to say, and you guys can watch it later. But yeah, speaking of that, unfortunately, Karma, my painkillers are starting to wear off, and I'm going to have to get going here soon. I do appreciate y'all jumping in here and having a chat with me. I did miss y'all on Sunday. Um, so hopefully nothing happens, nothing goes wonky, and we'll be back at coffee hour normal time this Sunday. Um, I'll probably try and do something at locals tomorrow or the next day for those who are locals supporters. Ow. For the same reason I didn't do coffee hour, I've not popped into locals this week. So I do appreciate it. But like I said earlier on, if you haven't watched this, do go back and watch it at the beginning because there's a lot of craziness going on around the world, right? Try to stay calm, think through it, do your own research. Don't just listen to the talking heads. I don't care what talking head it is. Don't just listen to it. Like I said, I got plenty of um, individuals. I like their content. I even trust their content, but I still always, regardless of if it's a trusted source or not, I do my own reading. I never, ever just take something at face value. Do your own reading, please, because that's one of the best ways right now to try and keep the anxiety tempered down. Um, and it's kind of funny because with those little pocket devices, those phones, it is so easy to just get hit with so many headlines that they can make you panic if you get over inundated with them. Consider turning that phone off sometimes and giving yourself a break too. All right, everyone, thank you for joining me. Have a great day, and I'll see y'all Sunday. Take care.